Morning, You Can Heal family. Welcome back to another reading of the Old Testament. Yesterday was a little rough, a little shocking, but we're moving on to chapter 20 today and see what that's about. So last night my daughter graduated from high school. It was really nice. It was actually a pretty good ceremony. Speakers were good. So she did it. She's on her way to SUNY Cortland to study sociology. So that's the update if you wanted to know. And now let's get into chapter 20. It says here, war between Israel and Benjamin. Then all the Israelites from Dan to Beersheba and from the land of Gilead came together in one large assembly and stood in the presence of the Lord at Mizpah. The leaders of all the people and all the tribes of Israel, 400,000 warriors armed with swords, took their positions in the assembly of the people of God. Word soon reached the land of Benjamin that the other tribes have gone up to Mizpah. The Israelites then asked how this terrible crime had happened, meaning things that took place yesterday. Well, our reading yesterday anyways. Verse 4 says, the Levite, the husband of the woman who had been murdered, said, my concubine and I came to Gibeah, a town in the land of Benjamin, to spend the night. That night, some of the leaders of Gibeah surrounded the house, planning to kill me, and they raped my concubine until she was dead. So I cut her body in 12 pieces and sent the pieces throughout the land of Israel. For these men have committed this terrible and shameful crime. Now then, the entire community of Israel must decide what should be done about this. Oh my God. And all the people stood up together and replied, not one of us will return home. Instead, we will draw lots to decide who will attack Gibeah. 1/10 of the men from each tribe will be chosen to supply the warriors with food, and the rest of us will take revenge on Gibeah for this shameful thing they have done in Israel. So all the Israelites were united, and they gathered together to attack the town. The Israelites sent messengers to the tribe of Benjamin, saying, what a terrible thing has been done among you. Give up these evil men from Gibeah, so we can execute them and purge Israel of this evil. But the people of Benjamin would not listen. Instead, they came from their towns and gathered at Gibeah to fight the Israelites. 26,000 of their warriors armed with swords arrived in Gibeah to join the 700 warriors who lived there. 700 of Benjamin's warriors were left-handed, each of whom could sling a rock and hit a target with a hair's breadth without missing. Israel had 400,000 warriors armed with swords, not counting Benjamin's warriors. Before the battle, the Israelites went to Bethel and asked God, which tribe should lead the attack against the people of Benjamin? The Lord answered, Judah is to go first. So the Israelites left early the next morning and camped near Gibeah. Then they advanced toward Gibeah to attack the men of Benjamin. But Benjamin's warriors who were defending the town came out and killed 22,000 Israelites in the field that day. Wow. Verse 22, but the Israelites took courage and assembled at the same place they had fought the previous day, for they had gone up to Bethel and wept in the presence of the Lord until evening. Then they asked the Lord, should we fight against our relatives from Benjamin again? And the Lord said, go out and fight against them. So they went out to fight against the warriors of Benjamin, but the men of Benjamin killed another 18,000 Israelites, all of whom were experienced with the sword. Then all the Israelites went up to Bethel and wept in the presence of the Lord and fasted until evening. They also brought burnt offerings and peace offerings to the Lord. And the Israelites went up seeking direction from the Lord. In those days the ark of the covenant of God was in Bethel, and Phinehas, son of Eleazar and grandson of Aaron, was the priest. The Israelites asked the Lord, should we fight against our relatives from Benjamin again, or should we stop? The Lord said, go, tomorrow I will give you victory over them. So the Israelites set an ambush all around Gibeah. They went out on the third day and assembled at the same place as before. When the warriors of Benjamin came out to attack, they were drawn away from the crowd. And as they had done before, they began to kill the Israelites. About 30 Israelites died in the open fields and along the roads leading to Bethel and Gibeah. Then the warriors of Benjamin shouted, "We're defeating them as we did in the first battle." But the Israelites had agreed in advance to run away so that the men of Benjamin would chase them along the road and be drawn away from the town. When the main group of Israelite warriors reached Baal Tamar, they turned and prepared to attack. Then the Israelites hiding in ambush west of Gibeah jumped up from where they were and advanced against Benjamin from behind. The fighting was so heavy that Benjamin didn't realize the impending disaster. So the Lord helped Israel defeat Benjamin, and that day the Israelites killed 25,100 of Benjamin's warriors, all of whom were experienced with the sword. Then the men of Benjamin saw that they were beaten. The Israelites had retreated from Benjamin's warriors in order to give those hiding in ambush more room to maneuver. Then those who were in hiding rushed in from all sides and killed everyone in town. They sent up a large cloud of smoke from the town, which was the signal for the Israelites to turn and attack Benjamin's warriors. By that time, Benjamin's warriors had killed about 30 Israelites, and they shouted, "We're defeating them as we did in the first battle." But when the warriors of Benjamin looked behind them and saw the smoke rising in the sky from every part of the town, the Israelites turned and attacked. At this point, Benjamin's warriors realized disaster was near and became terrified. So they ran toward the wilderness, but the Israelites chased after them and killed them. The Israelites surrounded the men of Benjamin and were relentless in chasing them down, finally overtaking them east of Gibeah. 18,000 of Benjamin's greatest warriors died in that day's battle. The survivors fled into the wilderness toward the rock of Rimmon, but Israel killed 5,000 of them along the road. They continued the chase until they had killed another 2,000 near Gidom. So the tribe of Benjamin lost 25,000 brave warriors that day, leaving only 600 men who escaped to the rock of Rimmon, where they lived for 4 months. Then the Israelites returned and slaughtered every living thing in all the towns, the people, the cattle, everything. They also burned down every town they came to. Oh my goodness. I guess they got the revenge on what happened to the Israelite concubine. There was a lot of bloodshed in that chapter. And these words begin a retelling of the portion of the battle described. Thus provide additional details of Israel's battle. Okay, so that was a lot of silence. Did that make you uncomfortable? I was just looking down at the commentary, but there's nothing really. Let's turn back a page. Not all would be needed in the battle. Only 1 out of 10, but it was united effort. Possibly through the priest who would seek God's answer from the Urim and Thummim. Oh, that's must be when they asked God if they should continue fighting. That was a lot of war and a lot of bloodshed. Let's go ahead and read chapter 21, and then we'll be finished with the book of Judges. You and your family. We'll be done. Let's see. Okay, Judges chapter 21, Israel's foolish vow. The Israelites had vowed at Mizpah never to give their daughters in marriage to a man from the tribe of Benjamin. And the people went to Bethel and sat in the presence of God until evening, raising their voices and weeping bitterly. "O Lord God of Israel," they cried out, "why has this happened? Now one of our tribes is missing." I thought that was weird that they were fighting against one of the 12 tribes, so I did. So what does this say in verse 4? Early the next morning, the people built an altar and presented their burnt offerings and peace offerings on it. Then they said, "Was any tribe of Israel not represented when we held our council in the presence of the Lord of Mizpah?" At that time, they had taken a solemn oath in the Lord's presence, vowing that anyone who refused to come must die. The Israelites felt deep sadness for Benjamin and said, "Today we have lost one of the tribes from our family. It is nearly wiped out. How can we find wives for the few who remain, since we have sworn by the Lord not to give them our daughters in marriage?" Men at Jabesh Gilead murdered. So they asked, "Was anyone absent when we presented ourselves to the Lord at Mizpah?" And they discovered that no one from Jabesh Gilead had attended. For after they counted all the people, no one from Jabesh Gilead was present. So they sent 12,000 warriors to Jabesh Gilead with orders to kill everyone there, including women and children. "This is what you are to do," they said. "Completely destroy all the males and every woman who is not a virgin." Among the residents of Jabesh Gilead, they found 400 young virgins who had never slept with a man, and they brought them to the camp at Shiloh in the land of Canaan. The Israelite assembly sent a peace delegation to the little remnant of Benjamin who were living at the rock of Ramah. Then the men of Benjamin returned to their homes, and 400 women of Jabesh Gilead who were spared were given to them as wives, but there were not enough women for all of them. So now there's men of Benjamin. I thought they were all wiped out. I don't know. Women of Shiloh kidnapped. Verse 15. The people felt sorry for Benjamin because the Lord had left this gap in the tribes of Israel. Okay, so there aren't any of the tribe of Benjamin left. What's going on? So the Israelite leaders asked, "How can we find wives for the few who remain, since all the women of the tribe of Benjamin are dead?" Okay, so there are a few men left. I thought they were all wiped out. "There must be heirs for the survivors, so that an entire tribe of Israel will not be lost forever. But we cannot give them our own daughters in marriage because we have sworn a solemn oath that anyone who does this will fall under God's curse." Then they thought of the annual festival of the Lord held in Shiloh between Lebanon and Bethel along the east side of the road that goes from Bethel to Shechem. They told the men of Benjamin, who still needed wives, "Go and hide in the vineyards. When the women of Shiloh come out for their dances, rush out from the vineyards, and each of you can take one of them home to be your wife." So what is it? They're going to just kidnap them? What? "And when their fathers and brothers come to us and protest, we will tell them, 'Please be understanding.' Okay, let them have your daughters, for we didn't find enough wives for them when we destroyed Jabesh Gilead. And you are not guilty of breaking the vow, since you did not give your daughters in marriage to them." So the men of Benjamin did as they were told. They kidnapped, they kidnapped the women who took part in the celebration and carried them off to the land of their own inheritance. Then they rebuilt their towns and lived in them. So the assembly of Israel departed by tribes and families, and they returned to their own homes. In those days, Israel had no king, so the people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. Well, that's the end of Judges. I mean, it ended rather in a disturbing way, but I guess as we go forward, there'll be some kings. This commentary for verse 21 and 22 says, "Fallen humans find devious ways to justify immoral behavior." It's so true. Never put past what a human can do. That's why we need to stick with God. The Bible tells us that He sticks closer than a brother. It's also move away from Him. You can have family. To be honest with you, as I was reading, I don't know I had the thought in my mind to, we're doing the book of Ruth next, but to read the book of Ruth live. Now, I don't know where that thought came from, but it did. So I think I'm going to honor that and see that that was God. The book is not that long, so I think we'll do the whole thing in one sitting and just have like this marathon reading. Maybe we'll record the introduction, but then I'll go live to read the chapters. Yeah, I think I will. It's such a good book. I love the book of Ruth. So that's that. Waiting for my daycare kids to arrive, and this weekend is Blessings Party, so after work today I've still got a lot of shopping to do. And yeah, so that's what's going on with me. I trust that everybody is going to have a beautiful Friday and a wonderful weekend. And I'll try to remember on my community page to post some pictures of the kids from graduation from last night. All right, it was a good time, and I want to thank you again for listening, and I pray that you stay with me as we continue on to Ruth and the rest of the books in the Old Testament. So always remember, healing begins with self-love. Why? Because God is love and He lives on the inside of you. We will talk soon. Bye.